Good night, everybody, and welcome. My name is Ivy Montero. My pronouns are they, them, or if you want to call me by what you see, you can also call she, her. I am a non-binary artist, performer, choreographer, house mother, and event producer for LGBTQAI and BIPOC inclusive events in the city and abroad. If you pay me, I'll go. Whatever you pay me, I'll go. We like the monies. We like the coins. I am also very happy to be hosting this checkpoint in Gespräch. We're bringing for you someone that is very special and that is also doing the work for the community. And this person is also a Brazilian. It's also a non-binary. It's also living with HIV since 5 years. Their name is Gleisson Juvino. Gleisson also has created Instagram account called @Good HIV Vibes Only. There, Gleisson gives insights into their path as a pleve. Pleve means means person living with HIV, right? Like me. There in this account, Gleisson also, it's a tool that helps them to connect with other people living with HIV and also helps them to collaborate and elaborate new paths on how to fight the epidemic of HIV and AIDS around the world. Gleisson loves music, so you better send them good playlists. Gleisson loves to read, so you better send them good books. Gleisson loves to travel, so after the pandemic you can start planning our next travel with Gleisson. Gleisson loves yoga and French fries, so also you know what to feed Gleisson after you do that great ass yoga combo together with them. But also they are married, so don't try to be funny, just try to be friendly, okay, and be cute, because this is a very cute person. I'm very happy to introduce you to Gleisson. Please take the stage.
First, I have to thank you, Ivy, for that lovely introduction, and thank you all guys for having me here tonight. And well, welcome to Facing with HIV AIDS. Well, HIV is a virus that attacks cells in our immune system, specifically the CD4 cells, so it makes us more vulnerable to other infections and disease. If not treated, HIV leads to AIDS, or AIDS, a stage where our immune system is too weak to combat deadly infections. I decided to start by that point because nowadays it is really important to make that difference as a part of the fight against the stigma. Here's the latest data on HIV/AIDS, and the epidemic unfortunately keeps growing after when AIDS, and personally these facts upset me the most because I feel deeply sorry for the loss of our loved ones. It is unacceptable that so many lives have been lost for something that can be treated nowadays, and that's why we must make sure that people living with HIV have access to treatment. Well, the key populations, 2019, and key populations in number. Key populations include sex workers and their clients, men who have sex with men, people who inject drugs, gay men, and transgender people. In 2019, these key populations represented 62% of new cases. The remaining 38% came from the general population. This is why fighting the epidemic nowadays is so important to all communities. That's why treatment must be available to all communities. What is stigma and discrimination? Well, basically, stigma is a negative perception based on stereotypes or misinformation that leads to the act of discrimination. Okay, as examples of discriminations and stigma that we have to face, we have how do people living with HIV feel it, would be physical abuse, denial of health services, jobs and housing, arrest of people living with HIV where HIV transmission or specific behaviors are criminalized, discriminatory acts often based on different moral judgments about the person and their lifestyle. So the discrimination and the stigma all starts with judgments, and often judgments against people and their lifestyle. Do all communities face it equally? Unfortunately not. From the examples you can see that communities face stigma and discrimination differently. That's why stigma and discrimination must also be fought differently, based on person-centered approach. Well, we all face stigma and discrimination for something, and the idea is to see it not only as a mechanism that comes against people living with HIV nowadays, because we can face it for different things as well. That's why I tried to show that part with sex, gender, race, ethnicity, and other aspects of our lives that might show that we are at risk to face stigma and discrimination as well nowadays. What about our human rights? As a person living with HIV, some of our human rights are often violated. For example, health workers misadvising women and girls living with HIV that they shouldn't have sexual relationships or children, and sometimes advising them to have abortions. This is a violation of their right to marry and found a family. Health workers gossiping about people's HIV status dissuades them from accessing treatment. This is a violation of our right to privacy. Systematic racism prevents people living with HIV from accessing HIV services and programs. Their right to no discrimination and equal protection. Some health workers in different communities have a negative stigma. Sorry, guys. Some health workers in different communities have a negative stigma towards key populations, and that leads to discrimination, and for us this is a violation of our right to health care. Basically, we are afraid of going to some healthcare providers and being discriminated, not only because of HIV but because of all the aspects of our identity, and it's keeping people away from healthcare support, and it's a key issue on the epidemic nowadays. How can we make it better? Well, educate communities to promote positive social change related to HIV. Make sure that young people have access to youth-friendly HIV services and better sexual health education. Provide educators with the training and support to help students living with HIV and who are members of key populations to create a friendly educational environment free from stigma and discrimination. Words matter. For example, use words in a positive meaning instead of using those with negative ones, such as people living with HIV instead of infected, etc. I pretty insist on it because it always starts with words, and it's so important to talk about HIV AIDS nowadays, but we have to find less stigmatizing and hurtful words when it comes to talk about people. And as examples you have here, and I choose that one, are you clean? Because we often see it on dating apps, and it's something that is painful for people living with HIV to still have to face that situations nowadays. So, do you get tested is a better way to ask it. What benefits are there? Well, there are multiple benefits of ending stigma and discrimination. Those benefits include helping to end the HIV/AIDS epidemic, because as long as people are afraid of being discriminated against, they won't use service. Reduce the negative impacts of stigma on our physical and mental health and daily life. To be able to enjoy your basic human rights, and reducing stigma will encourage people to access health care, get tested, and be treated. I could talk about many other benefits, but the basic ones are well-being and having a better quality of life on our daily life, because as a person living with HIV, we already have to face different challenges on our lives all along. Doesn't matter if you're living with HIV nowadays or if you've been living with HIV for years. We still have to face other things than stigma. That's why fighting stigma and ending stigma is so important, so we can concentrate and keep our energy for the rest of our lives. This part is where I really want to share my life experience with you. Okay, I'd like to share some insights of my path as a person living with HIV and social campaigner that have helped me to become resilient and face what once was my biggest fear, the fear of people's reaction that I used to feel when I shared about my HIV status. This fear held me back for years, and hello?
Is it on?
I don't have my...
Maybe you don't have battery anymore. Yeah, because it's not on.
Yes, please. And I don't have my notes.
I know.
I don't know why.
There you go. It's all there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, should I keep without the micro? All right.
No, you can.
Should they keep without the mic?
You
Or
can
not?
try. Speak
Okay.
up.
Okay. Well,
New mic is coming.
Perfect, no, never mind.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this part is where I wanted to share the experience that helped me to face my biggest fear, the one that I used to have, that was the fear of sharing and talking about my life with HIV. That's why I'm here tonight, because I've lived with HIV for 5 years now, and I understand now that I don't have to be ashamed of something that is part of me but doesn't define me. I'm conscious of our diversity. I've become aware of diversity of representations that we can have on multiple topics nowadays. I've worked on my own models, essentially to understand that we have the fact of being living with HIV as a common point, but we are unique people, like each one of us here tonight. And I invite you all to examine what your representations are, what do they mean to you, and how it influences your interactions with the rest of the world, because thinking about it is essential to understand and fight discriminations. Today, I'm a volunteer at Coopsieta, Genf, where I work in the development of different community awareness and prevention projects, not only on the topics linked to HIV AIDS and other STIs, but also ensuring access to healthcare to everyone. Thanks to the work I've been doing, I've had the chance to understand all multiple identities and benefit of a person-centered approach that has helped me to overcome the external and self-stigmatization that I used to suffer, and which unfortunately led me to a suicide attempt a few years ago. That's why I decided to talk about stigma, because stigma isn't only linked to HIV. AIDS stigma is the process, the mechanism of stigma works basically the same way for different topics of our lives as well. And nowadays, with the situation, the exceptional times of the pandemic going on, it's even more important to be aware of the effects of stigmatization and prejudice, because stigma kills. Stigma kills people living with HIV. Prejudice kills people, trans people, sex workers, LGBTQIA+, and minorities all over the world. And stigma also kills indirectly when we have to face even self-stigmatization issues, directly or indirectly. So I'm here today to share that message of fighting stigma, fighting prejudice, not only against people living with HIV, but against all of our issues, because we all human beings, and we should support each other and be less judgeful. Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you all again for the chance of being here, because
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Well, I wanted to thank you all again for the chance of being here, because nowadays I understand that I'm beautiful the way I am, and I don't have to change a thing or self-stigmatize. And it's all I wish to everyone, not only for people living with HIV, but all of us. Be aware of our beauty and enjoy our lives. Thank you.
now we came to the part, thank you very much for your presentation, Gleisson. And we come to the part that we're gonna open up for some questions. Just want to know, how much time do you have? Around?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
15 minutes.
So, does anyone has some questions that you'd like to ask for Gleisson?
We collected them.
You already collected some. Good. But I'm gonna ask something first because I'm hosting and I have privileges. Because I was talking to Gleisson before, and Gleisson told me about the situation that they got COVID, and I think nowadays talking about how to live with HIV and ending stigmas, and COVID being something that is so big in our daily lives. How was it for you as a person living with HIV, and also you got COVID, and how to share information, how those two get together, because there's also probably a stigma that people think like, okay, now that someone with HIV got COVID, they probably gonna die or something like this.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice if you could also talk about that.
Well, thank you for your question. I have to say that at first my friends and family, of course, were worried, and I did my best to reassure everyone by explaining that a person living with HIV that has undetectable viral loads and that has been through treatment or risks, we're not more at risk than anybody else. Of course, we have to rest and be careful with stigma as well, but if I can take the best of it, for me, when I found out that I had coronavirus, I felt like I was going through something I had already lived by the past. I mean, the tests, all that atmosphere of going into the hospitals, getting tests, and etc. And it actually helped me to calm down and say to myself that everything will be okay, and I only needed some rest and follow medical advice and, well, look after myself at first. And I unfortunately had a bad experience of suffering stigma because of coronavirus as well. It hurt more than coronavirus itself. So that's why I keep on that key point of fighting stigma, no matter which one.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So we have another question, and I think this is a good question, like what are the benefits for people without HIV, not to stigmatize persons with HIV? I personally, I think that, let me just answer real quick for myself, like the benefit for you who are negative to stigmatize is that you don't get hit, you know, like talk shit, get hit. But I bet Gleisson is better, can answer this better. I'm a bit violent sometimes, so.
Well, I'd say avoiding awkward situations and avoiding losing friends and being aware of something that is common and that is part of our daily lives nowadays is well, the HIV epidemic has been going on for almost 40 years now, and it is still like part of our daily life and actual topic. So the benefit of being aware or is not only having a better life, but also being aware of what is going on nowadays.
Because I also think like to keep a community together is not just part of those who are carrying the stigma. Like to destroy stigmas is part of. It's like a job for everybody of the community, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't hit people. Don't. It's not good. I wanted also to know, like, this question is here, and I couldn't understand really good. I know what this question means, and I'm just gonna try to make it shorter because it's a bit big. How is it in the apps when you are HIV positive? About the stigma, you know, like, I mean, I also know how it is, but I want a non-violent answer.
Well, I have to say that I'm not on apps, and I haven't been on apps for a while now, so from my past experience, I'd say that it was painful and difficult and exhausting, you know, being there and trying to be nice and just getting to know someone, and some people come, you know, to attack you, and you have to go through things and explain and educate people. I say that I like that part of education, so when I used to be on apps, I used, you know, to made a big job of education as well, so it was more like this. But the adjectives and the, you know, really pointing things as are clean, did you transmit me something, or stuff like this is unfortunately common, and that's why we should be better educated now, even before going into apps.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We're over, is it?
Online question.
An online question?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me see. How much time do you have now?
10.
10 minutes? Okay. Still?
Max.
Okay. It's an online question, and it goes like this. Do you feel that the stigma and discrimination against people living with HIV under LGBTQI community is getting better or worse in Switzerland? Like through your work and the development in the group where you are, how do you feel about that?
Okay, it's a really nice question. I feel like we're coming together as a part of LGBTQIA plus community. I'm really happy to be part of the community and to share. I feel we've been doing better, and we have a lot of potential to do much better, but it depends also on political will and people coming together, and unfortunately even community we still have to face stigma, especially when it comes to relationships. But I feel like it's also a matter of education and talking. That's why it's so important to talk, and freely talking, and talking using better words, and well, learning from each other. But I feel it's going better and it has a lot of potential.
Thank you. I have another one which says, like, you said HIV is part of me but not define me.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point, to that conclusion? In terms of stigma, I perceive this as very crucial. No. But the question is, how did you get to that point?
Well, I get that to that point by saying that our identities are multiple. You know, we are a lot of things. We're not only a thing. And I say it that way because some people, especially when they want to hurt or be really using discriminating words, they will say, well, we are that thing, you are it. And no one is only a thing. We are a lot of things, and we should be proud of our multiple identities.
But you say like that being HIV positive is also part of your identity, right?
Yes, it's also part, but it's not.
It doesn't define you.
It doesn't define.
Exactly.
It's not the only thing.
Okay.
We should look elsewhere as well.
Cool. Any more questions? Do you have something else?
I have another online question. What made you start the work with Coopsieta?
Okay. Wow.
Can you repeat the question for the people that hear it? And
Yeah, let me repeat.
Thank you.
Don't give me the microphone. I get every opportunity to have the microphone. So the question is, how did you start the work with the group Coopsieta Genf? Right? Is it this?
Yeah.
Firstly, I wanted to get to know people living with HIV, because when I started being a volunteer, I was already living with HIV for almost 3 years, and by that time I didn't know anyone else living with HIV. That's why representativity is so important. And also as a being part of a community as well, you know, getting to know what is going on in my city now, and at first was it, and I fell in love with it. And now is even more than getting to know people, is sharing as well, and it's a life path coming.
Okay, cool. I have one question for you, a personal question. Being Brazilian, like you and me, and living with HIV and working in community here, and I mean, for me, I work more in the artistic field, so it's also very important for me whenever I have the opportunity to connect with the artistic and LGBTQI community, BIPOC community in Brazil. Being now from your side, being from the Department of Healthcare, did you got already some opportunities to also get in touch with what's going on in Brazil in terms of HIV, AIDS, and STDs, like the healthcare down there, or is there a plan for you to do this and connect Switzerland and Brazil in those terms?
I'm happy to answer that question by saying that Brazilians have inspired me to do what I've been doing as well. I had the chance to be there last year when I met some guys working on prevention in Brazil, where I come from. It also inspired me by doing it online as a blog, because there are, I'm sure there are a lot of good people doing a great job, but I've been following some of them for a while, especially by curiosity as a foreigner, a Brazilian living in Geneva, and it's important to me to get to know what is going on there as well. And I'm happy to know that we kind of work worldwidely, and what I mean is take the best of my experience and learning with them and share.
Cool. Do you have more questions, or?
I have a last online question. It's
A last one.
How is the difference between the discrimination in Brazil versus Switzerland?
So, what's the difference between the discrimination in Brazil and in Switzerland when it comes to stigma of HIV and AIDS?
Okay. Well, when it comes to stigma and discrimination, I'd say that unfortunately the mechanisms work the same way, but they might come from different fields, they might come from different places. That's where the differences are, and also words. I'd say as a Brazilian, and my mother tongue is Portuguese, and we unfortunately have some words that are really stigmatizing. I'd say those vocabulary employed as well might be the biggest difference.
Also, complementary is also education is a big part, I would say, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the areas in Brazil where you don't have so much income, you don't have so much education, and people barely know what HIV and AIDS is about. So it's also like underdevelopment. It also plays a big part for people to not have access to education, right? So that was the last question. Do you have anything else to say as last words, Gleisson?
Yes, I do. Well, I wanna thank you all again, and the checkpoint and the team that I've already met, and also the people sending questions through Instagram as well. And I especially wanted to thank my friends and my family and everyone for all of your support, guys. Thank you.
We want to thank you both. You've been awesome. Thanks very much for your activism, for being here, sharing your thoughts with us. And we've got a little presents with chocolates, of course. One for
Oh
you.
my God, thank you.
And one for you. So thank you very, very much from Checkpoint Zurich for your being here. Big applause.
Thank you.
And as Ivy said, instead of an apero, there is a testing. So we check all the 4 STIs, HIV, syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. So if you're thirsty, go first to the bar and then get tested. We're in the first floor. It's for free. And we would love to see you there. The next checkpoint im Gespräch is on the 1st of December. And we would love to have you here or online. Thanks very much.
Thank you.